Hello, and welcome to this Writing 115 tutorial on developing a strong thesis and creating an effective outline. As you read in the lesson, a strong thesis will include a subject and a judgment. So if that is unclear, we'll talk about that a little bit here, but you'll want to go back and read the lesson and make sure that you do the thesis check and the supplemental activity on identifying a good thesis. So in order to make an outline, the first thing I do when I want to organize my thoughts is create this 5-paragraph essay outline. And you can see that it will include the thesis statement and then 3 points of support, and then below each point of support, we'll have specific details that support each point. The next thing we want to do once we get that outline is fill in the blanks. In this case, I have a thesis sentence and some information from my pre-writing. You'll all have done some pre-writing, so you'll have something to start with. And my goal is to prove that the food I've had in restaurants lately has been disappointing. And as you can see, disappointing is my judgment. So all of these points of support need to demonstrate my disappointment. I decided, in terms of organizing this essay, that it would make sense to talk about different restaurant experiences. And that way I can prove my thesis that the food I've had lately has been disappointing. I don't want my whole essay to be based on one restaurant experience, one bad day at KFC. Before I continue filling in my outline with details, though, I need to look carefully at the 3 main points that support my thesis. So remember, there are 3 restaurant experiences. So I chose a sushi place, a taqueria, and then breakfast at Denny's. And the questions I want to ask myself are, can the paragraph about my sushi meal convince readers I was disappointed? And can a description of the food at a taqueria? And finally, am I capable of describing breakfast at Denny's as dissatisfying? And I think I can do all of those things. So each point of support will become the topic sentence of the paragraph in the body of the essay. So I need to turn sushi into a sentence. So I say, last Thursday I went out to sushi with my sister and the food was terrible. And notice how I choose a very specific date. The more specific we get, the more convincing we will be. And then my next point, my next paragraph will be supporting this idea of my neighborhood taqueria can no longer make a good burrito. And it's actually true. I go to a different one now. And finally, my omelet at Denny's last Sunday was so bad I might never order another egg again. And once again, here you'll see I've got last Sunday listed. So I'm looking at a very specific incident so that I can give you details. So in order to develop the paragraphs, I need to fill in specifics, and this is where those details come in. The easiest way to do this is to look at the topic sentence and ask why, then answer the question using 3 detailed reasons. So last Thursday I went out to sushi with my sister and the food was terrible. Why? Why was the food terrible? So each time I have the first reason, the second reason, and the third reason. And you can see that this is all really balanced out. And most essays aren't going to be this perfect. In other words, you might have 4 reasons here, you might have 2 reasons here, and you might have 6 reasons down here. However, you want to be careful. You don't want just one reason. You don't want one specific detail supporting an entire paragraph. You want to sort of have a lot of diverse sort of reasons for your point to be true. If you can start your outline with 3 under each one, that's just a really nice base for you. And then you can add more if you need to, or you can decide that one reason wasn't good enough and you're going to take it out. That's no problem. Essentially, you want your paragraphs to be consistently near or around the same length. I mean, there are no set hard and fast rules for writing and how many words you need to have in a paragraph and all of that. Really, you just want it to be convincing. So however much it takes to do that, well, that's what you need. Now, all I do is fill in specific convincing reasons beneath each point of support. So, you see my thesis, the food is disappointing. Food lately is disappointing. Last Thursday, I went out to Japanese food with my sister, and the sushi was terrible. That's my first paragraph. Why was it terrible? The fish wasn't fresh, the portions were small, and the selection was limited. And then for the taqueria, the refried beans tasted like paste. Undercooked rice was the main ingredient. That's a huge disappointment. And my tortilla was stale. Okay, gross, right? That is not a good burrito. And then finally, we get to Denny's, and my vegetables and my omelet were raw, my eggs were cooked to death. And to top it off, if that wasn't bad enough, the cheddar cheese was moldy. And poor Denny's, I have to add here that this never really happened to me at Denny's, but my husband, in fact, made me an omelet one time with moldy cheddar cheese, and it was so disgusting. I clearly have not forgotten that, and poor guy, neither has he. So you can see that all of these details support this idea that these ideas in the topic sentences. The sushi was terrible. And what makes terrible sushi? Well, bad fish, small portions, and limited selection, of course. I'm getting really bored with this thesis, but hey, let's keep rolling with it. So here's my judgment. It's disappointing that my entire essay is going to be about disappointing restaurant experiences. And if I were smart, I would make this funny. I would try to have a good time with it rather than get all serious and critical about restaurants. So the question is, do these details support the judgment in my thesis? Old fish, small portions, limited selection, pasty beans, undercooked rice and stale tortillas, and so on and so on and so on. Are these disappointing? And the answer is, of course, yes, they are. They're terrible. Yuck. So not only do these points support, each of these points of support, not only do they show how disappointing it is, but everything underneath needs to do it too. So the key is that you want your outline to be well supported at every level. This is where consistency does matter. If you go off the rails here in the last paragraph and start talking about the great Italian place down the street, that's fine, but it belongs in a different essay. This essay is about bad restaurant experiences or disappointing ones. So there it is. I began with my thesis, and after a few minutes of outlining, I have a solid framework for a descriptive essay. So I am describing restaurant experiences. Of course, in your first essay, you will be describing a place. So that's the end of this presentation, and thank you very much.